For the last 11 years, I've been working in college basketball either as a coach on a Division I staff or as a content creator on the media side. Back in 2020, I used my experience to create a video on the 10 most used plays by every college basketball team. But all of those plays were primarily for attacking man-to-man defense. In this one, I'll break down my favorite zone plays. The final set in this video has a special place in my heart because I used it during my first ever scout when I was a freshman in college helping coach my old high school team. I'll show you how we stole that play from Utah State and scored 12 points off it all in one game, as well as 9 other plays to embarrass a zone defense. In November of 2014, Kentucky hosted Boston University. Kentucky was the tallest team in the country that season, and BU opened up the game in a zone. Trey Lyles had 8 points that night for the Wildcats, but 6 of those came on alley-oop dunks off the same exact lob play. I call the play Zone America because it feels like just about everyone in the country has it in their zone playbook. The exact start of the play can differ, but the design is to simultaneously screen the center and the forward, usually the weak side forward. Then the offensive player on the wing cuts behind the 2 defenders being screened for a lob at the rim. Kentucky getting 3 dunks off the play in one game is the most I've personally ever seen, but many other teams have their own version of the play. Here you can see Kansas gets right into it immediately after a baseline out of bounds situation. Next up, we have Fist Crack, a longtime Bill Self play that became popular on Twitter when my friend Gibson Piper posted about it during the 2018 NCAA tournament. The play starts with an empty ball screen in the left slot. As the ball screen is occurring, the center either ducks in on the defensive center or sets a little screen. That duck in opens up the paint for the ball screener to roll right to the basket for a layup. Baylor stole it from Kansas after KU used to run it against the Baylor zone, but in the Bears version, they run it without setting the ball screen. Instead, they just reverse the ball and cut right to the basket while that duck-in occurs. So we just saw how Fist Crack is when an offense cuts down the gut while a duck-in is occurring. This next play uses a similar concept, but the cut comes from a different angle. Again, the play is focused on occupying the center by ducking him in, but now the cut comes along the baseline, sneaking into position behind the defense. It's a play I noticed several teams tried using against Merrimack's zone. Here you can see VCU sneaks behind the defense and draws a foul. And then on this one, you can see Merrimack's adjustment. The weak side forward stays with the cutter and temporarily leaves his normal positioning. A lot of times, teams will cut 2 players at a time while the duck-in is happening. The first cutter going out to the 3-point line in the corner, and the second one sneaking into the open space. My favorite version of the play comes from Buzz Williams. He has the wings cross each other underneath the basket and then runs the duck-in sneak after that. Number 7 on the list is unique in that it doesn't really involve any screening, only cutting. It was Jay Wright's go-to zone play at Villanova. The play starts out with a player cutting through the top of the key while the second player flashes up to the high post. Those 2 cuts distract the defense because the center is worried about the flash and the forward is worried about the through cut. Now that those 2 are preoccupied, the final action is a corner cut along the baseline for a lob to the basket. Villanova killed teams with the alley-oop on this play over the years, sneaking along the baseline for the dunk. But they also used it to throw the ball into the high post around the foul line area, setting up potential high-low action or an occasional foul line jumper. The concept behind the ball screen overload is to outnumber the zone by overloading behind the ball screen. Watch Alabama here. They're setting a ball screen, Chris Youngblood is already behind the ball, and Aiden Holloway is about to overload that side by moving out to the corner. When Mark Sears comes off the screen, now this BYU defender is outnumbered. He has to guard both of these guys at the same time. Here, Youngstown State uses a different start to ultimately get into the same ball screen overload concept. Notice how 2 players are behind the ball, and this time it's IU Indy who's outnumbered. At Mississippi State last season, we started our shooter as the ball screener on the left side of the floor. But the play was actually to throw the ball ahead and set another ball screen on the right side. Notice how the shooter, Josh Hubbard, is making his way to that corner, putting 2 players behind the screen again for the overload. If the defense doesn't know it's coming, it's a very hard play to adjust to on the fly without any pregame or in-game preparation. Next on the list is a very common baseline out of bounds play against zone. It starts with two players, usually on each elbow, Xing out by cutting diagonally across each other. Occasionally, the X cuts themselves can lead to some defensive breakdowns, with the offense getting an easy dunk. But assuming that's not there, the next step is to cut a third player to the front of the rim now that two defenders are occupied by the X cuts. It's another action I noticed Merrimack got beat on a couple times last year, but they're hardly the only ones. Another thing the X concept can do is force extra defenders to sink into the paint, potentially opening up the weak side three for the player spotted up in that corner. We ran a series of plays at Mississippi State that all started with this alignment: the 4-man setting an empty ball screen, the 5-man in the weak side dunker spot, and a shooter in the weak side corner. After setting the ball screen, the 4-man would turn around and set a flare screen, then slip into the middle. From here, we had 3 different variations. The first is the 5-man could duck in and create a driving lane, just like we saw with Fist Crack earlier. The second is the 5-man could sneak out towards the perimeter and set a screen for the corner to get a 3. And the final variation was for the 5-man to get a lob at the rim. Here's a perfect example of what the screen for the corner 3 looks like. Cam Matthews set the screen and Claudell Harris hit the jumper. And here's the one time last season we got a lob for the 5-man. However, back when Fred Hoiberg was at Iowa State, the Cyclones ran a very similar play using the flare slip, and they really emphasized looking for the lob off the action, getting the dunk several times. The alley-oop lob is a common theme for a lot of the plays in this video, and here's another one that I refer to as the ball screen elevator. 2 offensive players screen the top 2 guards in the zone, opening up space for the point guard to drive right through the nail. Oftentimes, that penetration gets the defensive 5-man to focus on the ball, leaving his team vulnerable to the lob at the rim. Sometimes teams will set a screen on the baseline for the lob pass, and sometimes it's just a cut without a screen. The elevator concept even made it into last year's NBA Finals, with the Pacers running the play for a TJ McConnell pull-up jumper against the Thunder's zone. The next play is a favorite of the Chris Mack coaching tree. Mack, Pat Kelsey, and Travis Steele all use it. It starts with a step-up screen to initiate a baseline driver. As that's occurring, 2 players set rip screens on the bottom of the zone to clear out space, looking to create a layup. Louisville got 3 dunks off the action last season, but this play has also worked at the high school level. In 2022, I tweeted about Xavier running the play. My former high school coach saw that tweet and installed it the same day during their pregame shoot-around. They scored twice off it during the actual game, which is the footage that you're seeing right now. They're the team in the black uniforms. And that leads us to our final play, which I just call Utah. It's an old Stu Morrill set that starts out like the corner rip play most people call Cyclone, but then the player that sets that rip screen turns around and runs right back to where he came from to finish the overload for a corner 3. Missouri actually ran a very similar version of the play last season against man-to-man defenses for their shooter Caleb Grill. But the play is near and dear to my heart for this reason. My senior year of high school, while I was still a player, we lost a game to a team that ran a funky matchup zone. That loss haunted me, so the next year when I was home on college break, I prepared the scout against them and installed this Utah set. The overload worked to perfection, and we scored 12 points off of 4 corner threes in just one 32-minute game. That experience gave me super unrealistic expectations for how scouting an opponent is supposed to go, because no scouting decision I've made since then has ever worked as well as Utah did that first time. The play has actually been uploaded to my channel for 13 years, long before I ever became a serious YouTube creator. Now that I do in fact do this for a living, it's the time in the video where I need to promote my online course, Basketball Analytics for Coaches. If you've made it this far and want to learn more about in-game strategy, using statistics to incentivize player performance, or using them to evaluate your team as accurately as possible, this is the course for you. We've had people enroll from all over the world with all different basketball backgrounds. Use the promo code YouTube at checkout for a discount. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.